Clara Martinez sat alone at her kitchen table, the morning sun casting soft shadows across the weathered wood. A cup of coffee sat before her, untouched and growing cold, its steam long vanished, much like the brightness that once filled her life. It had become a daily ritual: sit, stare, and listen to the silence. The kitchen, once alive with laughter and the smell of fresh pancakes, now felt like a haunted space where the ghost of her husband lingered, a heavy presence that wrapped itself around her heart. The walls, decorated with framed photographs of happier times, bore witness to her solitude. Clara traced the outline of one photo with trembling fingers, her and her husband, arms wrapped around each other during a summer picnic, smiles broad under the Texan sun. "We should cherish every moment," he'd always said, the words now echoing in her mind like a distant song. But cherishing felt impossible when each moment without him was steeped in aching loss. She sighed, pulling her gaze from the memories, but the silence clawed at her. It was hard to ignore how loud it was, how it screamed of absence. She could hear her own breath, each inhale a reminder that life continued while he lay still beneath the earth. Guilt washed over her like cold water. She had seen the signs, and yet she had not fought hard enough. What more could she have done? The question spiraled in her mind, dragging her deeper into despair. Suddenly, a soft rustle outside broke through her thoughts. Clara hesitated, curiosity pulling her to the window. She leaned slightly to peer out, catching sight of a scruffy brown dog wandering past her garden, its fur matted and eyes wide with caution. Clara's heart quickened, an unexpected flutter sparking within her chest. There was something about the dog's vulnerable posture that stirred a forgotten emotion, something like longing, something akin to hope. But as quickly as the feeling emerged, it faded, snuffed out by an overwhelming sense of unworthiness. Grief had wrapped its claws around her tightly, whispering that she didn't deserve joy, that allowing someone, or in this case, something, into her heart would only invite more pain. She shook her head, dismissing the idea of reaching out, of welcoming any form of companionship. Life had already dealt her a harsh hand. The thought of letting anyone in felt like asking for a double dose of sorrow. With a quivering breath, Clara turned back to her coffee, but the silence still loomed over her like a thick fog. She felt the weight of her sorrow pinning her down, suffocating her spirit. Summoning strength she wasn't sure she had, she whispered her husband's name into the quiet space, each syllable heavy with love and loss. David. The name slipped into the air, carrying with it all the unsaid words, the shared dreams that now felt like fragile echoes of the past. The clock ticked steadily in the background, marking time in a way that felt cruel. Clara closed her eyes, allowing the memories of their love to wash over her once more, the evenings spent listening to George Strait songs, their laughter blending with the melodies, the promise they had made to never take each other for granted. But now, the music felt distant, a melody trapped in a world where her heart no longer resided. As the kitchen filled with silence again, Clara clenched her hands around the chipped edges of the coffee cup, feeling the heaviness deep within her bones. Somewhere beyond the window, the stray dog paused, turning to glance back at her, its gaze meaningful and sincere. In that fleeting moment, a small flicker of hope danced within Clara's heart, as if life was gently nudging her to reconsider, to step tentatively towards a world that still had room for warmth and connection, even amid sorrow. But for now, she simply sat, lost in the shadow of what once was, whispering a name that lingered far too long. A soft chime, signaling the hour, jolted Clara from her reverie. She shifted uneasily in her chair, the memories that had engulfed her still dancing behind her closed eyelids. It was just a moment ago she felt the weight of grief so intensely. Now, she found herself pulled into the warmth of reminiscence, memories colliding like the notes of a cherished song. In her mind, she returned to a vibrant summer afternoon, the sun a golden beacon shining down on a younger version of herself and David. They were at a local fair, laughter pouring from their mouths as cotton candy melted on their tongues. The mingling smells of fried dough and popcorn filled the air, a delightful chaos of childhood wonder. David had taken her hand, raised it above their heads in triumph as they won a game, that familiar cheeky grin plastered across his face. "Just look at that ring toss rhythm," he had exclaimed, bursting with pride, his arm around her shoulders, drawing her close. In her mind, she could see how the sun caught the twinkle in his eyes, alive with dreams of the future. There was an unforgettable magic in those moments, a promise that life would be filled with joy and companionship, hand in hand. Yet, the nostalgia ebbed, and the shadow of the present dulled the shine. Clara's heart sank as she acknowledged the ache in her chest, a new sunlight overshadowed by an overcast sky. She sighed, allowing the current to wash over her. Days turned into months, and those happy afternoons faded into distant echoes replaced by illness and pain. She conjured memories from their evenings at home, the two of them snuggled up on the couch, the soft glow of the television illuminating their world. They would often sing along to George Strait's Amarillo by morning, their voices rising and falling in harmony, each note a testament to their love. David would pull Clara close, whispering sweet nothings in her ear, as if the lyrics were written just for them. His enthusiasm for those moments wrapped around her like a cherished blanket. He had a remarkable ability to make even the simplest moments feel extraordinary. It was music that bounded their hearts, yet it also felt like a double-edged sword now. Clara's sadness intertwined with the melodies that once brought so much joy. The songs fell like rain against her heart, sometimes soothing, more often causing echoes of pain, reminding her of a life now lost. George Strait's voice, once vibrant, felt like a distant friend, familiar yet foreign as she lay paralyzed in her sorrow. Lost in her thoughts, Clara barely noticed the glance of the stray dog peering cautiously through her kitchen window. It was as if the little creature shared her heaviness, a metaphorical reflection of her own isolated heart. As the dog seemed to linger, when she opened the door, a spark of unexpected energy coursed through her veins, but the thought of embracing that energy felt daunting, wrapped in the cocoon of her grief. The door creaked as she hesitated, contemplating the memory of David's playful encouragement. "You can't hide away forever, Clara. There's a whole world out there waiting for you," he would say, his voice a blend of humor and sincerity. And as much as she had wanted to believe him, those words felt like a well-worn record she could not yet hear. The musings of the past loosened and flowed. Clara's mind wandered again to the laughter shared in their backyard. There was a particular night, a fire pit crackling as they sat under the starlit sky, glasses of sweet tea in their hands. They spoke of dreams, David dreaming of adventure, wishing to travel the world while Clara sketched her aspirations of teaching. Their conversations felt as if they painted constellations across the expanse of their shared future, endlessly brightened by love. Yet, in the depths of Clara's grief, she had been building walls, strong enough to keep the world at bay, but fragile enough that the memories sometimes broke through, reminding her that love once flourished. She thought of how David would often discourage her from retreating into herself, a smile always present as he brushed the hair from her face. "You have so much light in you, Clara. Don't let it dim," he would whisper. And here, as she gazed out the window, the scruffy dog stood courageously at the threshold of her life. Perhaps, Clara mused, there was a doorway waiting to be opened, a beckoning from the universe or from her husband's memory, urging her to rediscover her own light. She could almost hear the echoes of David's laughter mingling with the howl of the wind. The day moved forward with an unyielding sense of déjà vu, the past and present blending together like the colors of dawn. Perhaps tomorrow, if she allowed it, she could learn to hum along with the songs of her memories, weaving them into new fabric, one that welcomed the familiarity of George Strait's voice, but made room for a fresh melody. And with that flicker of resolve simmering in her chest, Clara felt the briefest notion of hope, that maybe, just maybe, she could step into the light that waited patiently beyond the shadows. The days ahead remained daunting, yet curiosity sparked within her, a gentle nudging of faith that life held more than just sorrow, even in the darkest spaces. The days turned to weeks, and Clara found herself living in a strange limbo, an existence defined more by absence than presence. Each morning she awoke to sunlight filtering through her lace curtains, casting intricate shadows that seemed to taunt her memories. The world outside moved at a rhythm Clara couldn't quite grasp. It felt like a vibrant dance muted to silence, leaving her on the sidelines. Her home, once alive with love, now echoed with solitude. Sitting on the couch, a book sprawled in her lap, she struggled to focus, her mind perpetually wandering. It was as if time were a cruel thief, robbing her of warmth. She often stared at photographs that adorned the walls, the laughter of shared moments frozen in time. David's smile, captured in an instant, felt bittersweet, almost mocking. One afternoon, while going through a dusty box of photographs in the attic, Clara stumbled upon a picture of David beaming under their backyard oak while sipping lemonade. It struck her like thunder, a reminder that joy had once flourished in her life. Yet that joy quickly dissolved into grief, leaving her feeling empty and lost. The memory threatened to consume her, and she balled her hands into fists, fighting against the tide of despair. As night fell, Clara curled up under heavy blankets, feeling an encompassing chill in the air. The howling wind outside mirrored her internal state, a symphony of sorrow that echoed off the walls of her heart. Then, a gentle knock at the door broke through her spiraling thoughts. Opening it, she was greeted by the bright smile of her neighbor, Sandy. "Hey, Clara, thought I'd check on you. Want to go for a walk?" Sandy's enthusiasm was infectious, offering a spark of light in Clara's shadows. I'm not sure," Clara answered hesitantly, feeling the weight of the world pressing down on her. But Sandy pressed on, her eyes warm with kindness. "We can take Buster along. He'd love it." The mention of Buster, the scruffy dog she had seen earlier, sent a flicker of warmth through Clara, a lifeline she didn't know she needed. With a deep breath, Clara found herself nodding. "Okay, let's go." A tentative smile emerged, one she hadn't worn in a long time. As they walked, the cool evening air invigorated Clara's spirit. With each step, she felt the past gently peel away, replaced by the accordion-like push and pull of companionship. Sandy kept chatting about her daughter and her writing, filling the quiet spaces that once felt suffocating. Yet, as they reached the park, Clara felt a familiar ache in her chest. Families played together, children laughed, and she was hit with a wave of loneliness. Did these people know what it felt like to carry such burden? As if sensing her unease, Buster trotted over and leaned against her leg, seeking her touch. Clara knelt, finding solace in his warmth, his innocence wrapping around her in a gentle embrace. "Are you sure you're okay, Clara?" Sandy asked, her concern palpable. Clara hesitated, caught between vulnerability and the instinct to retreat. "I'm just taking it all in," she finally responded, even as the words felt inadequate. Sandy reached for her hand, squeezing it gently. "You don't have to do this alone. I'm here for you, anytime you need." Clara felt a tug at her heart, the sincerity of Sandy's words offering a tentative bridge over her loneliness. As they continued their walk, Clara began to feel that the world might still hold moments of beauty. Despite her heart's heaviness, she recognized that each step ventured forward was a whisper of possibility. What if the ghosts of her past were only urging her to find new rhythms of life? Ones that welcomed laughter, friendship, and perhaps even love again. So as she gazed at the fading sun, Clara realized that perhaps this was only the beginning. Perhaps she could learn to weave the threads of yesterday with the promise of tomorrow, inviting new melodies into her heart. The journey was just forming, but for the first time in a long while, she felt ready to search for her song. Days turned into weeks, and with each passing moment, Clara's life began to take small turns toward renewal. It was as if the universe, in its infinite wisdom, was patiently guiding her through her grief. The melodies of her past no longer haunted her. Instead, they transformed into the backdrop of a fresh symphony ready to be composed. Buster had woven himself into the fabric of Clara's days, the scruffy dog following her from room to room, his playful antics challenging her remnants of sadness. She found joy in their morning walks through the neighborhood, where the sun glimmered over dew-laden grass, and the world felt alive and full of promise. One day, as she strolled with Buster, she spotted a community garden bursting with vibrant blooms. The colors were vivid against the backdrop of a clear sky, an invitation to connect with life itself. On a whim, Clara decided to approach the garden, noting a sign announcing volunteer opportunities. "What do you think, Buster? Shall we grow something beautiful?" she asked, her voice carrying a newfound excitement. A bark in response echoed her enthusiasm, and she felt her heart swell as she signed up, hoping to nurture the growth of plants as she sought to nurture her own. Volunteering at the community garden became an oasis of healing for Clara. The days spent tending to the soil, planting seeds and nurturing growth awakened something deep within her, an understanding that life could indeed be cultivated anew. One bright afternoon, while planting tomatoes, she struck up a conversation with another gardener, a retired teacher named Martha. Their shared laughter and passion for nurturing life sparked a genuine connection. "You know, Clara," Martha began while positioning a tomato plant, "the beauty of gardening is in its parallels to life. We bury our seeds, nourish them, and patiently wait for them to sprout. Sometimes, we just have to trust the process. Clara nodded, the wisdom sinking in. I think I'm starting to learn that, she replied, a tinkling of hope fluttering in her chest. With every plant that took root, Clara felt walls crumbling, her heart opening like blossoms unfurling in the spring light. One evening, while pruning the flowers, Clara caught the lingering notes of a familiar melody drifting through the air. George Strait's voice crooned from a nearby porch, weaving itself into her thoughts. The sound wrapped around her like an old friend, igniting a warmth in her soul. She could almost hear David chuckling beside her, encouraging her to dance. Would you care for a little jam session? Martha's voice broke through her daydream, and Clara's brow furrowed in confusion. Martha, I was nearly lost in thought there. A jam session? Clara echoed, recalling countless nights spent with David, music drifting through the air as they shared their hearts. Yep, a few of us create music in the evenings, Martha explained. If you play, we'd love to hear it. Music brings everyone together. Clara's heart raced at the idea. I haven't picked up my guitar in quite a while, she mused, the weight of memories flooding back. Sometimes the first strum is the hardest, but you just might surprise yourself, Martha encouraged, an unwavering smile gracing her face. That night, Clara found her guitar tucked away in the corner of her living room, gathering dust like forgotten dreams. As her fingers gently brushed over the strings, she felt a bittersweet mix of fear and excitement ripple through her. But what would David think? Where once she had felt fear of losing the memories tied to those strings, now she sensed the potential of a new beginning. Taking a deep breath, she strummed a few chords. The familiar sound echoed back at her, sending ripples through her heart. Somehow that sound stirred life within her, bringing with it the first flickers of warmth and comfort. With Buster lying close by, Clara played softly, her voice timid, yet filled with longing. The music flooded her senses, lifting her spirit like a gentle breeze. She poured her heart into every chord, finally allowing herself to feel the vulnerability and liberation that came with the notes. As she continued to play, a soft knock on her door interrupted her reverie. Surprised, Clara set her guitar down, a smile creeping across her face when she saw Martha standing on the threshold. Just checking in, Martha said with a twinkle in her eye. I heard some beautiful sounds coming from this direction. Mind if I come in for a moment? Of course, Clara gestured for her to enter. Excitement and apprehension swooped through her as she wondered whether she should play again, maybe even share the songs she'd been crafting in the quiet of her solitude. Do you have something you've been working on? Martha inquired, and Clara felt her cheeks flush. Not really, she trailed off. It's been a while since I've played with anyone. It'd be great to hear what you've been working on, Martha coaxed. Music shared is even sweeter. Clara took a deep breath, letting the trust in Martha's eyes soothe her doubts. Just as she began to strum the chords she had played earlier, Buster padded next to her, his tail wagging in a happy rhythm. Suddenly the room felt alive with anticipation. With each note, Clara felt echoes of the past, beautiful memories mingling with her quest for renewal. The song began to take shape, a melody stitched together from fragments of laughter and longing. As she played, Clara tuned into the emotions rising in her chest, weaving them into the music that belonged to both her past and her present. Martha listened intently, nodding along with Clara's breathing. That's how it should feel, she affirmed when Clara finished, her voice brimming with encouragement. You're rediscovering your voice. Clara could hardly believe the warmth spreading in her chest. It was as if each chord unlocked another piece of her spirit. The joy of creating surged within her, a seed planted, now growing in the sunlight of friendship and courage. Remember, this is only the beginning, Martha said, her smile unwavering. Together, let's nurture our passions and grow something beautiful. In that moment, Clara felt alive again, a bloom reaching toward the sky, vibrant and ready to thrive, embracing the rebirth of her heart through music and companionship. All the fear that had weighed her down began to dissipate, replaced by an effervescent hope that life, in its unpredictable beauty, was inviting her to dance once more. As days blended into weeks, Clara began to forge a rhythm in her life. Music returned as a compulsive thread, entwined with the tasks of nurturing her garden and the companionship of Buster. Clara and Martha formed a tight camaraderie, meeting each week for musical honing at the community garden under the sun-drenched sky. Clara's fingers began to dance over the guitar strings with newfound confidence, and Martha's gentle guidance helped deepen her understanding of songwriting. One warm afternoon, Clara gathered her courage. "Martha," she said, scanning the garden blossoming around them, "what if we put together a small community show? We could invite everyone to sing and share their music." Martha's eyes sparkled with excitement. "That's a brilliant idea, a chance for everyone to come together and celebrate their creativity." The prospect energized Clara, a surge of determination fueling her. They spread word of the show, and before Clara knew it, people began volunteering, excitedly offering to participate. Clara felt a mixture of thrill and anxiety. Could she really perform in front of others again? The memory of David supported her in the push and pull of anticipation. David had always believed in her talent, encouraging her to perform with unwavering faith. As the day of the event approached, Clara devoted her evenings to practicing, weaving songs from the past with new verses unfolding from her heart. Yet, despite her determination, a creeping dread started to shadow her excitement. Would she be good enough? Eventually, she realized these fears were echoes of her former life, a life enshrined in pain rather than hope. Inside, whispers began to flicker like shadows. What if I fail? What if the audience sees my scars instead of my songs? Each time she reassured herself, the doubts returned with a vengeance, stirring the remnants of inadequacy within. In the days leading up to the show, one particularly heavy evening, Clara found solace on the porch, her guitar resting on her lap. Buster lay beside her, his rhythmic breathing steady and comforting. As she picked at the strings, memories of David washed over her, his laughter, his encouragement. She felt as if he were there beside her, nudging her to lean into the fear. "Okay, David," she whispered into the twilight. "If I'm going to do this, I need your help." She raised her eyes to the night sky, feeling a connection to him, as if he were illuminating her path. And in that moment, she found clarity, determining to embrace the fear rather than shying away from it. When the night of the show arrived, Clara stood backstage, nerves churning within, a nervous fluttering as she could hear the muffled sounds of the crowd outside. People filled the garden, laughter and chatter rising into the warm evening air. Clara peeked through the curtain, her heart racing at the sight of friends and neighbors settling onto hay bales, a gentle buzz of excitement enveloping the gathering. Martha approached, sensing Clara's hesitation. "Hey, you okay? You're going to be great." Clara nodded, forcing her breath to settle, but inside, her heart thumped louder with each moment. When it was her turn to step out into the light, Clara wiped her palms on her jeans and took a deep breath. A hush fell over the crowd as she emerged, the glow of lanterns wrapping around her like a warm embrace. Buster watched from the sidelines, his tail wagging as if he sensed the magnitude of this moment. Clara forced herself to meet the eyes of her friends and neighbors, their encouraging smiles lighting a flame of strength deep within her. She felt David's spirit beside her, bolstering her resolve. Picking up her guitar, she took a moment to gather her thoughts and emotions, a mixture of joy and anxiety dancing in her chest. With her gaze on the assembled crowd, Clara began strumming the first chords of her song. It rippled through the garden like the gentle sway of flowers in the wind. Her voice trembled slightly as she began to sing, but with each note she felt layers of fear peeling away. The words flowed from her heart, blending the memories of her past with the hope she nurtured for the future. Each verse resonated as she poured her soul into the music, echoes of laughter with David mixing with fragments of grief. As she sang, Clara felt a transformation washing over her. The weight of loss paved the way for a celebration of love. With each chord played, she rediscovered her voice, the notes of her heart taking flight into the night. When she finished, the crowd erupted into cheers and applause, their encouragement enveloping her like sunshine. Clara blinked away tears, disbelief washing over her as Martha rushed to her side. "You did amazing. See? I knew you had it in you." Martha enveloped Clara in a tight embrace, and the warmth of friendship filled the air. For the first time since David's passing, Clara felt a sense of peace, a connection with the audience that felt like family. In that moment, she realized she had crossed a threshold, one that bridged the pain of loss with the hope of renewal. Clara smiled through her tears, the taste of joy mixing with the bittersweet remnants of remembrance. As more musicians began to take the stage, Clara felt the whirring of possibilities around her, possible collaborations, friendships blooming from shared creativity. That night was only the beginning. She felt more entwined with her community than ever before. There was a flicker of hope, and a new melody to be found in the upcoming seasons of her life. While the shadows of grief would always remain, they were now interspersed with the light of acceptance and the beauty of resilience. Clara understood that she wasn't just honoring David's memory, but learning to step into the fully woven tapestry of her own life. As the night wore on, Clara took a moment to catch her breath, standing at the garden's edge, watching her friends laugh and dance together. Maybe, just maybe, this place, the laughter, the music, the shared connections, was where healing truly began. With Buster lying at her feet and music filling the air, Clara felt ready for the next chapter, one where the echoes of her past wound together with the vibrant strains of the present, harmonizing into a beautiful melody of life. As the final notes of the concert faded into the night, Clara found herself enveloped in the warmth of camaraderie, the laughter and chatter of the community, creating a bustling atmosphere around her. A network of faces, both familiar and new, beamed with appreciation for the performances they had collectively shared. Clara's heart danced among them, feeding off the energy of the crowd, and she couldn't help but feel lighter, almost buoyant. In the weeks that followed, the community show blossomed into a regular gathering. Clara joined Martha and others in forming a local music group that met weekly to share songs, stories, and aspirations. It felt as if every note strummed pulled Clara further from her past and deeper into a vibrant tapestry of relationships. One Saturday morning, Clara and Martha decided to organize an open mic at the community center, inviting people from surrounding neighborhoods to showcase their talents. Clara worked on promoting the event with genuine excitement, each poster they tacked up around town, a step toward unity and connection through the love of music. "Clara, look at this view," Martha exclaimed one day as they prepared for the open mic. They were inside the center, adjusting chairs and decorating the stage. As Clara stepped outside, she marveled at the vibrant autumn foliage surrounding the center, colors bursting forth like a symphony of reds, yellows, and golds. "It's beautiful," she breathed, allowing the chill of the autumn air to invigorate her spirit. "You know what else is beautiful?" Martha inquired, leaning against the doorframe with a knowing smile. "Our community is really coming together for this. Everyone's buzzing with excitement." Clara's face lit up and she nodded enthusiastically. "It feels like the music is sparking something within everyone. I can't believe how far we've come in such a short time." That night, as they prepared for the open mic, Clara stood backstage, a mixture of adrenaline and anxiety coursing through her. She looked out at the gathering crowd, friends, neighbors, and families, united under the shared love of music. It was a beautiful patchwork of lives intertwined, a far cry from the loneliness she once felt. As the event unfolded, Clara watched with admiration as local talents poured their hearts into their performances. A young girl sang a poignant ballad about love, her voice trembling yet powerful. A seasoned gentleman played his harmonica, coupling laughter with deep-rooted emotion. Clara felt something shift inside her, a compilation of stories that resonated within her heart, harmonizing with her own journey. Then it was Clara's turn. She stepped onto the stage, her hands trembling slightly, the spotlight draped over her like a warm embrace. For a moment, she hesitated, battling a whirlwind of nerves. But then she thought of David, his encouraging smile, urging her to find the strength within. With a deep breath, Clara introduced herself and shared her story, weaving in the melody she had written during the days leading up to the event. As she began to play, she felt a rush of freedom wash over her. The song spoke of her journey, from heartache to healing, from solitude to belonging. The audience, captivated, hung onto her words, their nods and smiles blending with the music. It was unlike anything Clara had ever experienced. Vulnerability married with strength, creating a bond that resonated in the room. When she finished, applause erupted, wrapping her in warmth like a soft blanket. Clara's throat tightened with emotion, and she raised her guitar above her head. The realization that she belonged here washed over her like a gentle wave. As she stepped off the stage, Martha rushed to embrace her. "That was beautiful. You've grown so much." Clara beamed, the joy lighting up her face. "Thank you. I never thought I'd feel this way again." In the following weeks, Clara found herself diving deeper into her newfound passion. Inspired by the stories shared at the open mic, she regularly wrote new songs that captured the essence of her experiences and the lives unfolding around her. Through the garden group, Clara also cultivated friendships built on shared creativity. One afternoon, while they worked together planting flowers, Martha turned to Clara. "I have a bit of an idea. How about we take our music to local schools, offer little concerts for the kids?" Clara's heart fluttered at the prospect. "That sounds amazing. I'd love to inspire them through music." The excitement only thickened the air around them, invigorating their efforts as they envisioned bright-eyed children wrapped up in melodies, discovering their own love for music. One day, standing in front of a crowd of eager students, Clara felt the same flutter of nerves rush back. As she looked into their curious eyes, she couldn't help but smile. "Do you guys like music?" she asked, and the room erupted with eager shouts of agreement. She played a song, strumming her guitar under the lights as the children swayed and clapped along. The simplicity of their joy mirrored her own heart, every note becoming a thread weaving her newfound life back together. After the performance, the students felt inspired, and Clara spent time answering their questions, sharing stories of how music could transform emotions and offer solace. As she spoke, she felt as though she was becoming the mentor she had once longed for, to give to others what music had begun to offer her. Yet deep inside, Clara knew she was still on a journey of healing. One evening, as she thumbed through photographs of David and their joyous memories, she still felt the shadows of sorrow ebbing and flowing in her heart. Each moment spent in remembrance was a reminder of the love that once filled her life, and yet she recognized the importance of weaving that love into the new tapestry she was creating. As time went on, Clara embraced the ebb and flow of her emotions. There would always be moments of reflection, but they transformed into added layers of beauty rather than burdens of regret. In this way, life began to unfurl before her, a new beginning steeped in vulnerability, beauty, and hope. Clara found herself thriving amidst her community, her voice becoming a beacon of light for others who sought connection. Each song she played planted seeds within her heart, of courage, resilience, and acceptance, giving life to the beautiful melody she was destined to weave. Clara smiled at the future, ready to embrace whatever came next, her heart an open book, ready for new chapters, new melodies, and new connections, waiting just beyond the horizon. As Clara's life blossomed into a vibrant tapestry of music and connection, the community around her thrived with creativity. The open mic sessions became a beloved event, bringing neighbors together to share their songs and stories. Clara felt a profound sense of belonging, realizing that her journey was now intricately woven into a larger narrative of hope and resilience. One sunny afternoon during preparations for a community gathering, Clara spotted a familiar face. Sophie, a bright young girl passionate about music and a regular participant in their sessions. "Clara, I wrote a new song," Sophie exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Clara crouched down to meet her gaze. "Let's hear it," she encouraged, heart swelling with pride. Sophie pulled out her ukulele and began to play, her small fingers deftly navigating the strings. The tune encapsulated innocence and dreams, a reflection of hope, and Clara couldn't help but smile as she witnessed the girl's creativity unfold before her. Once Sophie finished, Clara beamed and clapped, flooding the girl with encouragement. "You are incredible. I'd love to help you share that with others." Sophie's face lit up brighter than ever, and together they envisioned a child-friendly music program aimed at nurturing budding talents in their community. The following month, Clara took her newfound commitment seriously, organizing the first workshop at the community center. Standing amongst a group of eager children, she felt a familiar flutter of nerves similar to her own early performances. The children's laughter and excitement brought warmth to her heart, reminding her of the transformative power of music. "Do you guys like music?" Clara asked, and the room erupted with enthusiastic shouts. She began strumming her guitar and singing, watching the children sway and clap along, their joy palpable. As she shared stories of her own journey, she felt a wave of happiness wash over her. She was no longer just a mentor. She was a guide, much like she had always wanted. Days turned into weeks, and the program blossomed. Clara organized more sessions alongside Sophie, encouraging kids to explore songwriting and instrumentation. The smiles on their faces felt like a warm embrace, a reminder of the innocence she sought to foster amid her own struggles. One evening, at the culmination of the program, Clara stepped on stage once more, this time surrounded by her young stars. Together, they performed songs they had crafted, their voices blending in a melody of joy and hope. Clara watched in awe as the children sang, their pride shining brighter than any spotlight. Applause erupted through the community center, resonating with energy and love. Clara felt the warmth in her chest, transformed by the realization that she was part of something bigger. The journey of healing hadn't been traveled alone. It was shared, amplified, and enriched by the people surrounding her. In the months that followed, Clara reflected on her journey, the deep valleys of grief juxtaposed with the peaks of joy. She understood that while the shadows of loss might always linger, the light of connection warmed her heart, filling the gaps with laughter and creativity. As she continued nurturing the music program, she emerged as not just a mentor, but as a beacon of resilience in her community. Each song she played sowed seeds of courage and acceptance, creating ripples far beyond her individual story. Standing in front of a group of eager young faces, she recognized the profound impact they had on each other. Clara smiled, eyes sparkling with gratitude, knowing she was ready to embrace whatever came next. Each day felt like a new page in her story, a narrative rich with melodies and interwoven lives. As she watched the children thrive, her heart resonated with the beautiful truth. Music held the power to heal, connect, and inspire. With each note she played, Clara found herself continually rising, prepared for an ever-unfolding journey, ready to share her music and life lessons with those who needed it most.